Ever heard the saying, the best way to a person's heart is to be mean to them?
Yeah, not exactly the most romantic advice, is it?
No, not really. But that's kind of the thought process behind negging, which honestly sounds more like something you'd find in a villain's playbook than a dating guide. We're going deep on this one today, figuring out if there's any truth to it or if it's just a recipe for disaster.
I'm intrigued.
So to start, we got to know what we're dealing with.
Right, got to define the technique.
Exactly. And Wikipedia, that ever-reliable source of, well, sometimes reliable information, defines negging as a deliberate backhanded compliment or otherwise flirtatious remark to undermine confidence and engender a need for the manipulator's approval.
Emphasis on manipulator, maybe.
Yeah, huge red flag right there. But okay, it's Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt, right? Lots of cooks in that kitchen, and sometimes the recipe goes sideways.
Definitely. But still, it makes you wonder, where did this whole idea even come from?
Right, who woke up one day and thought, you know what'll make him swoon? Insults disguised as compliments.
Well, like a lot of questionable dating advice, this one seems to come from the pickup artist community.
Yeah, those guys.
Their claim is that negging makes the negger appear more confident, less available, and therefore more desirable.
So basically playing hard to get, but instead of, actually being busy, you're just rude.
Pretty much.
I'm not sold yet.
I don't blame you, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this one. There's this quote from one of the most well-known pickup artists. I'm not going to try to say his stage name, but his real name is Eric von Markovic. Anyway, he compared negging to blowing your nose, said it's not inherently an insult.
Okay, that's just, I don't even know where to begin with that one. First of all, ew. And second, if you have to compare your flirting technique to something you do with a tissue, you might want to rethink your strategy.
Exactly. But to play devil's advocate for a second, there is some psychology at play here. Some people might be more likely to seek validation after a neg, even if they know it's a manipulation tactic.
So it's like playing on people's insecurities.
In a way, yeah. But that's a very slippery slope. More often than not, negging just backfires spectacularly.
I'd imagine so. Instead of coming across as, like, mysterious and aloof, you just come off as a jerk.
Right. Because at its core, negging is about trying to knock someone down a peg to make yourself look taller. And that's not exactly a recipe for healthy attraction.
More like a recipe for disaster.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so negging, like straight up trying to make someone feel less confident, that's bad. We get it.
Yeah.
But what about those kind of backhanded compliments?
Oh, I see. You're talking about those compliments that leave you feeling worse than before.
Yeah, like, wow, you look amazing. For your age, like, what do you even say to that?
Right. It's all about intent versus impact. Even if someone thinks they're being clever or flirtatious, a backhanded compliment can be really damaging to someone's self-esteem.
Totally. It's like you get a compliment, but it comes with this asterisk.
Absolutely. And it makes you question the whole thing.
Speaking of questioning things, I've heard people talk about disqualifiers as a way to, like, create intrigue in dating. Is that just negging in disguise, or is there something else too?
Okay, so disqualifiers, yeah. Neil Strauss, in his book, what is it called? The Rules of the Game, I think. Anyway, he talks about disqualifiers as a way to signal that you're not, like, totally love-struck from the first hello.
So playing it cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, instead of showering someone with compliments right off the bat, you might say something like, you seem really fun, but I bet you're a terrible cook.
Okay, so it's like you're being self-deprecating or maybe a little bit challenging, but in a playful way.
Exactly. The intention is to come across as genuine and not too eager, but yeah, it's a very, very fine line.
Yeah, because that could easily backfire and make you seem like, I don't know, arrogant or just not that interested.
100%. And that's the thing with these kinds of tactics, I guess you could call them. It really depends on the person on the receiving end, their sense of humor, their insecurities.
Right, like what one person finds funny or intriguing, another person might find super offensive.
Absolutely. It all boils down to context.
Which is tough because, like, how are you supposed to know how someone's going to interpret something before you say it?
Exactly. A playful tease between long-term partners who know each other's humor inside and out, that's totally different from a stranger using it as a pickup line at a bar.
Okay, that makes sense. So much of this comes back to, like, the relationship itself. A silly joke from your best friend hits different than a backhanded compliment from someone you barely know.
Right. It all comes down to trust and understanding. And that's why, honestly, I think relying on these kinds of manipulative tactics, whether it's negging or disqualifiers or whatever else, is, well,
Risky business.
very risky.
Okay, so if negging is out, and these disqualifiers are like walking a tightrope. What about the opposite? Like, is there a term for being like overly positive or giving too many compliments?
Well, there's this term pausing, but we got to be really careful with that word.
Yeah, pausing definitely rings a bell, and not in a good way.
Exactly. I mean, some people might use it to talk about being overly positive or whatever, but the thing is, pausing actually has a really, really heavy and honestly pretty awful meaning connected to HIV and AIDS.
Yeah, definitely not the kind of positive vibes we're going for.
Not at all.
Okay, so if negging's out and pausing is definitely off the table, what's the alternative? Like, how do you show someone you're interested without resorting to these weird mind games or cheesy pickup lines?
You know, it's actually a lot simpler than people make it seem. Instead of trying to, like, dissect dating like it's some kind of algorithm, just focus on, actually connecting with the other person.
Okay, so like just be yourself.
Exactly. Be genuine, be respectful, and honestly, just let your personality shine through.
So basically the same way you'd want to be treated. Be interested, listen to what they have to say, and let your good qualities speak for themselves.
Exactly. And hey, a genuine compliment goes a long way. And I don't mean showering someone with empty flattery, but if there's something you genuinely appreciate about them, don't be afraid to say it.
Makes sense. So, to wrap up our deep dive on negging, it seems like the takeaway is this. Trying to manipulate someone into liking you is never going to lead to a healthy relationship.
100%. Building a relationship on mutual respect and actually appreciating each other is way more effective than any backhanded compliment or weird tactic.
Well said. So next time you're tempted to try some clever neg on someone, maybe try a genuine compliment instead. You might be surprised by the difference it makes. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but join us next time when we'll be unpacking the power of vulnerability in relationships. Until then, keep those conversations insightful.